It's Query and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company.
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Jones out of the gun. Taylor the back left. In motion down to the right side is Ogletree. Back in to throw is Jones. Looking. Fires into the end zone. And it's a catch for a touchdown. And it's Drew Ogletree. Kansas City going right to left in your mind's eye. Mahomes in his own end zone looking to pass. Throws over the middle. Run after the catch. 25, 30-yard line. Over the far sideline. 40, 45, 50-yard line. And being pushed out of bounds is Rashee Rice. Back in to throw Mahomes. Gives ground. Throws upfield. It's caught. First down and more. Inside the 35. They're at the 30. Rashee Rice cuts off a tackle and gives himself up down to the 24-yard line. Colts are 5 of 12 on third down. This is third and a yard. Jones out of the gun, ball in the near hash. Taylor, the running back, right. And they give it to Taylor, and he's going to be tackled behind the line, back to the 40-yard line. Drew Tranquill and Chris Jones combined on the tackle for loss. That is the fourth consecutive drive for the Colts on offense. 3 and out. Mahomes backs to throw. 5-step drop. Looking. Throws over the middle. That's a catch inside the 30-yard line. Run after that grab, and they give himself up on the slide. That's Rashee Rice inside the 25 to the 24-yard line. Butker out of the timeout. Measures it up again. This is from 27 yards in overtime. Game tied at 20. Ariza to put it down. Waiting on the short snap. Snap. Placement. Kick is up. And it is good for the Chiefs.
The defense did a great job getting the takeaways. You know, when we get a backed up situation, we got to get ourselves out of that situation. That's the 3 and out there, and then we had another 3 and out, and then we had another 3 and out. So anytime you have 3 and outs and you're not moving the ball efficiently, it's going to be hard for anyone to win football games, and we got to be better.
That's how it sounded yesterday. Shane Steichen, Matt Taylor on the radio call. Colts losing in Kansas City, and now all of a sudden things get interesting, and we have a lot to talk about and break down from yesterday on this Monday, where I think this may be, at least in terms of being out and about, my first remote, if you will, out on location, as it is Parks Place Pub up in Fishers, the Lounge, specifically where we are broadcasting today. That is because it is the draft party for the Indy Ignite, the Professional Volleyball League, and they have a number of events going on in the Indy Ignite. And I think, listen, I made no bones about this a year ago. The fact that when I went out for the first time and went to a game there at the Fishers Event Center, I was blown away by not only the athleticism, the quality of play, but the enthusiasm for it. And it's a packed house. Packed house today for their draft. We will let you know what's going on with that. We'll have some Indy Ignite guests as well over the course of the next 3 hours. Jake Query here with you along with Eddie Garrison. This is Query & Company, by the way, on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. But let's talk about yesterday and Arrowhead. Look, the reality is this. I was thinking a lot about this, and I think the easiest way to say it would be this. That was not an egregious loss, but it was a bad loss. And the difference would be this. An egregious loss would be one that you are left stunned, that you are left shocked. Losing at Arrowhead, losing a game where Patrick Mahomes goes storming down the field in the variation and the form that we have seen 1,000 times from Patrick Mahomes. That isn't necessarily shocking. But what's bad about it is it was a game where the Colts had it right there within their grasp. And notably, and most importantly, I thought what happened was this. You know, if you look at the fourth quarter and the overtime, I think Shane Steichen, for somebody that we have always loved the fact that he's kind of like the old Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron, like he's aggressive, he's go for it, we're just going to let it all fly. He puckered up. He puckered up late in that game. And in terms of his play calling, in terms of the way that he decided to divvy up his offense, he puckered up. And the Colts now are in a position that is unique because, and a little bit tenuous, they're sliding just a little bit. You know, I said to somebody earlier today, this is the time of year where for the first time you go outside and you're like, whoa, like I got to put on the winter coat here. And now the Colts are in position where they got to get buttoned up here because you've lost 2 of 3. Daniel Jones is seemingly, I'm not going to say that he's regressing at this point. That's a little too, probably to use the term, that's a little bit reckless. But certainly Daniel Jones is not playing to the level that he was when all of a sudden we're sitting there talking and we're discussing and debating who's the MVP. Is it Daniel Jones? Is it Jonathan Taylor? The Daniel Jones that we saw yesterday ain't going to get it done. Ain't going to get it done. And when you give up not one but 2 first-round picks to get Sauce Gardner, then when you do that, what you're doing is you're saying we are committed to Daniel Jones. This is our quarterback. It's got to be. Because where do you get quarterbacks? You get quarterbacks early in the draft, right? And yes, sure, Anthony Richardson's still on the roster and he's out with injury. I get all that. But the reality is this. They have committed to Daniel Jones. I know they haven't signed him yet, but that's where they are. That's where they are. And yesterday, I thought they did him no favors. As a matter of fact, I thought they did him a disservice because they avoided giving the football to their best option. They avoided giving the football to the guy that keeps things flexible and open for Daniel Jones. And yes, Tyler Warren is that guy to an extent. He stretches a defense. He expands a defense out. He spreads it out, and then you can hit. But Jonathan Taylor not getting touches down the stretch. In the fourth quarter, the Colts were absolutely abysmal in the fourth quarter yesterday. Abysmal. And inexcusable. Their defense, when you look at Sauce Gardner, and yes, I know that we can sit here and talk till the cows come home about Charvarius Ward and whether or not Charvarius Ward looked like, and I don't make light of this in any way, shape, or form, but the fact that he was coming off concussion protocol and to a great extent looked like he was at times a step slow. But part of that is because of this, and this is where the Colts did them the most disservice. Shane Steichen not only did a discredit to Daniel Jones by forgetting Jonathan Taylor was on his roster, he did a discredit to his defense. Because what has Jonathan Taylor done and shown in his time as a running back with the Indianapolis Colts? What we have seen is this. Jonathan Taylor is a guy that gets better as the game goes on. Jonathan Taylor is a guy that salts clock for you, takes control of games, and Jonathan Taylor is a guy that then gets knockout blows for you. But he can't do that if you're not giving him the football. And when you're going consecutive 3-and-outs and you're not getting a first down in the fourth quarter, and you're not getting a first down, and in the overtime, and that was peculiar as well, the decision in the overtime to take the ball first was really, it's almost like the Colts didn't know the new rules of the NFL in terms of overtime. And those new rules being, of course, that both teams are going to get a chance to get the ball, and you want to know what it is that you've got to do once you took it over. That game yesterday just looked like one where the moment was too big for Shane Steichen and the Colts. And it's not. It's not. It's a talented group. It's a talented roster. It's a team that theoretically is still going to the playoffs. But in that moment, at that time, in that stadium, the franchise that Patrick Mahomes, the only one he's never beaten in the regular season, and there you are, and you're at Arrowhead, and it's a packed house, and the crowd is loud, and you have 2 occasions. You've got a 4th and 4 where the old Shane Steichen, the Shane Steichen that we've come to know and love, goes for it. Goes for it. And says, you know what? I've got the best back in the league behind me for Daniel Jones. Let's just hand him the ball. I've got a guy in Quentin Nelson that I can put anywhere and run behind. We're going to get 4 yards. Or we're going to throw to Tyler Warren. We're going to get 4 yards. And no, they instead get conservative, unlike Shane Steichen. They get conservative. They back away from what has made them, to this point, the dream season that they are on course for. And now you look at the situation where after the Pittsburgh game where Pittsburgh got overly aggressive, Pittsburgh blitzed the heck out of Daniel Jones. You wondered if the blueprint was there. Kansas City in the first half of that game didn't I thought defensively they were pretty conservative. They were not overly aggressive. They didn't blitz a lot. They did in the second half. But what the Colts failed to do was give their defense. I thought realistically, Shavarius Ward we can discuss in terms of late in that game moments where he looked lost. But Sauce Gardner and the defense in general, you can sit here and say Mahomes going right down the field and, on numerous occasions there, and what they were able to do and the passing yardage that Kansas City was able to accumulate. You can sit here and talk about how those things, statistically speaking, would indicate that the Colts defense was a liability yesterday. But I don't think it was. I think the defense yesterday was put in a bad situation because they could never, ever, ever catch their breath. You can't, when you're even if defensively there was an area of breakdown, I don't think there was, but if there was, you don't even have time to come over to the sidelines and look over it and see, the photos or talk to the defensive coordinators or whatever it is to look at where it was that you were having error, because you literally are coming over, taking a squirt of Gatorade, and you're right back out there. And that is because Indianapolis failed to control the clock. In the fourth quarter and overtime yesterday, the Colts offense, 12 plays, 13 yards, 0 points, 4 punts. That's inexcusable with that talent. Inexcusable. The Chiefs, 43 plays, 228 yards, 13 points, and 1 punt. Now, and a turnover. But again, if you look at the reason why Kansas City was able to get that kind of chunk yardage, the reason why Kansas City was able to continue to go with that, a big, big, big part of that. A big part of that is because of the fact that defense was completely gassed and completely worn out. Completely worn out. And now it gets real. You got to button down and it gets real. Because, yes, the Colts have put themselves in position to be right there, at the front of the division. However, that division now, what do you have remaining? You got 4 games against Houston and Jacksonville, and then you sprinkle in Seattle, who is basically the NFC equivalent of Indianapolis in the fact that Seattle is having this year where you didn't think that they'd be here at this point, but they are, right? And then San Francisco. So the margin for error they had built for themselves is sliding now drastically. Eddie Garrison is here. Eddie, do you miss me today? I got to know. Do you miss me today? Because I'm more often than not, this is only maybe the third time. I guess that you have obviously the Grand Park, and then you have the times we're at the golf outing. And other than that,
the State Fair.
I need you to ponder the State Fair. That's another one. The State Fair, indeed. But other than that, it is not often. I mean, I've got guests here with me now that far surpass the company that you provide for me. No offense. No offense, right?
There's nothing can top me, Jake. I am the creme de la creme. We know this. Come on now.
Okay. If you think so, well, like I mentioned the fact, and we've got plenty to get to with the Colts over the course of today, but Parks Place Pub is where we are located right now, the lounge inside of it for the Indy Ignite draft party. It is the professional volleyball draft today. The Ignite have not one, not two, but 4 picks today. They have the 5th overall pick in round number 1. And one of the members of the Ignite joins me now here on site. It's a packed house, Cameron Hanna, for the Indy Ignite draft party, right?
Oh, yeah. This is fun to see.
It is fun to see. All right, let's get to this. So you are somebody you've got a fascinating story, because when it comes to, I think whenever you are building a roster, you want, you look at whether we're talking about the Colts, the Pacers, the Indy 11, the Indianapolis Indians, you always want players that have winning pedigree within when they come to a new situation, right?
For sure.
And you have exactly that, right? Like winning is something. You're not wearing it today, but you've got a ring, right?
I've got a few.
Okay, so let's talk about that just in terms of, by the way, opposite hitter. You played for Las Vegas a year ago, correct?
Yep.
And this is basically, Indianapolis is the Las Vegas of the Midwest. Have you figured that out yet? It's glitz, glamour, and all kinds of fun.
I
see you rolling your
now.
eyes. I see you rolling your eyes, right? Welcome to Indianapolis, though, and let's begin with this. You played at one of, if you look collegiately at volleyball, I always think, Indiana has a rich heritage of it. Purdue's got a good program, Ball State. But the two, I think, within the Midwest that people know about historically, Nebraska, great program, but you played at probably the best of them all, and Penn State, right?
Oh, yeah.
What things do you carry with you when you are at a program collegiately that is used to winning that you can then carry into at the professional level?
I think just the way you carry yourself and the way you conduct being in the gym with your teammates every day, you push yourself to be better because you all have a goal. And I think that's the most unique part of this team that we're building now is like everyone knows how to be a winner. And that's so much fun because now you can be in the gym every day and you can push each other to be better and you can have this big goal at the end, but you know that like it's the little things that make a difference and everyone has that understanding already and you can just build on that going forward.
One of the things I was thinking about in watching, and last year I think I went to either 5 or 6 games early on for the Ignite, as a matter of fact, and I was blown away by it in terms of the enthusiasm. But I've made a lot of this. Just the overall enthusiasm. First off, the venue's beautiful, right?
Fantastic, yeah.
And then I'm watching it, and it's the athleticism and the speed that takes place. Now, this I'm going to ask you the dumbest question you've ever been asked about volleyball, okay? Are there things that you do to work on hand-eye coordination and reaction time? Because that is such an important part of your game.
For sure. And it's something that grows every time you reach a new level in the game. So like from college to pro, like that was something I had to learn again. So it never stops getting faster. And that's kind of the fun part too, is like once you get into the game, you're kind of just in go mode and you're going at the speed of the game, which is so much fun. But yeah, there's definitely a lot that we do, like a lot of tennis ball work and a lot of just eye work during practice. And honestly, the reps that you get just watching the game makes a big difference as well because you learn a lot from just watching the little things that people do or picking up on small little details that you might miss when you're just watching the whole game.
Okay, I'm going to ask you another dumb question, okay? When we talk about, for example, I'm talking about the Colts game yesterday with Kansas City, right?
Okay.
And I'm looking at it and I'm saying the Colts erred because they didn't go to the ground game enough. They should, they went too much, passing the football, etc.
Sure.
In volleyball, are there different ways that you can win a volleyball match? In other words, is it about knowing the tendencies and the weakness of the opponent and where to strike, where to block, etc.? Or are there different sets that you guys use, different strategies? And I know I'm showing my naivete of the game here,
No,
right?
that's all right. That's a great question.
But I am curious, though, are there different ways in which a volleyball team wins and different game plans you come up for?
For sure. I mean, the strengths of your own team, and then we would scout the opponent as well. So based on your strengths and their weaknesses, how you're going to win this game. But there are teams that, defensively, this is going to be a defensively very strong team, and that's how you're not going to beat them defensively. You might have to beat them offensively, like in a different way. So that each team has their strengths and weaknesses, and we play with those very often.
How old were you when you realized, and it's interesting because the explosion of volleyball at the professional level here, I mean, we see it right here in Central Indiana, but how old were you when you realized that this is a game that you wanted to be able to play for as long as you possibly could?
Oh, I would say probably junior year of high school. I knew that this was a game that could take me very far.
And you grew up where?
In Chicago,
okay.
Illinois. Yep. So we had a pretty good winning season in high school as well, and I knew that going into college I could continue that. And then once I got to college, I started figuring out that there's leagues overseas, and then leagues in the U.S. started opening up, and that was fantastic for me. So I could stay close to home.
And that's what I wanted to touch on is, we're here today and we're watching, 4 different players. You're going to get 4 new teammates today, right? Mm-hmm. And the reality is that 5 years ago, that wasn't in the discussion, right?
Sure, yeah.
And so for you, do you understand or I guess embrace the responsibility of knowing that there are young girls, maybe even here today, you go to a game and you'll see it at the Fishers Event Center, but the platform you're providing for young girls in terms of goals.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you?
I think it's so important, and it's also, I coach back home as well, so that's the reason that I coach, because I know that young girls, when I was growing up, didn't have this platform to go out and watch professional volleyball. Like, we can only watch it on a live stream from overseas, and the only thing that you had was like leaving your family and going away for 10 months, and now all these girls can watch me do what I love here in front of the people that I love and still have a good life and not have to feel like I'm so far away and I'm so disconnected from my family because I want to do the thing that I love. Now you can have a balance of both, and I think that's so important to just show people what that life is like and make girls understand that there is a path for you if you really love this sport, and whatever sport you play, like, there should be a path for you to go do that and do it in front of your loved ones.
Is it true, by the way, that when you live in Las Vegas that you never go to the Strip unless people come to visit?
Yeah. It
Really?
is. I think I went to the Strip probably the first 2 or 3 weeks I was there, and then after that I got
12
into
times in the first 2. No, I'm just kidding. Right,
maybe
right.
4 or 5.
I mean, honestly, right? But there's so like, again, Cameron Hannon, by the way, is our guest from the Indy Ignite. We are at the Indy Ignite draft party here up in Fishers as the Ignite will get their season underway coming up. Season opener January 24th. They've got a big event on December 12th that I will let you folks know about as well. But they are going to be drafting 4 players today, including the 5th overall. But when you come from a Las Vegas, you know, when I was a kid, Vegas was a city that everybody was like, they can't ever have professional sports in Vegas. Now that, you know, obviously just about everything is there. Mm-hmm. But the glitz and glamour of it and the lifestyle of it, was it tough to stay focused?
No. We lived in a town called Henderson.
Yeah, Henderson,
so
right outside of it,
quiet.
right? Which is the Fishers of, although it's big, of Nevada.
I mean, got the same amount of food options right here, so
That's right.
It's great for me. But yeah, it was not very difficult, and I think your teammates help you stay focused as well. Like, I was obviously the youngest one on my team coming out of the draft, and I had a few girls on my team that were seasoned veterans, so they kept me on track, and I'm a person who's very focused in what I'm doing anyway because I know what winning takes. So I think as long as you have good mentors and a team that has the right mentality about going into the season and doing the right things for your body and taking care of yourselves, then it's really not difficult to stay focused, even in that environment.
Hey, this franchise knocked on the door a year ago, right? I mean, it's you're walking into a good one here because they're right there on the cusp, right? Mm-hmm. What things in terms of just today in general, I mean, getting to know and getting the feel for whenever you have, because when you're talking about 4 new players that are going to be joining, you know, that's a sizable part of the roster itself.
For sure.
How long does it take to kind of get acclimated and get to know everybody on the floor? Not off the floor, but on the floor.
I would say on the floor, it would take about a week. I think with preseason and the schedule that we have, it doesn't take us very long to figure out how to interact with one another. And I think that we're all very determined because we know what it takes to be a great team. It doesn't start 3 weeks in. It starts from day one.
What was your favorite sport growing up?
It was definitely volleyball. Volleyball or baseball. I'm a big Cubs fan.
I was going to say Cubs or White Sox fan.
Oh, Cubs, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
And I do know it. You know, it's funny. I had a friend once in Chicago that was going to work in sports broadcasting. And they said, well, you know, it'd be good if you act like you're both a White Sox and a Cubs fan. I'm like, no. In Chicago, you can't be both,
Absolutely
right?
Absolutely not, no.
Okay, Bears or Bulls, which one do you prefer?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm not a big football fan, so I would say Bulls.
The Bull. You know what? The Bears are actually good this year.
They are. They're so good this year. I am actually intrigued.
You can wear your Bears stuff because it's blue and orange, the same colors you guys have, right?
I don't have that much stuff, but yeah.
Well, you can wear your Ignite stuff if you're in Chicago,
and
you know, the blue and orange, right? Most exciting thing for you about being in Indianapolis is what?
Ooh. Honestly, I think just being a part of this team. I'm just really excited for this season. I think they do have unfinished business from last season, and they're also determined. Like, I've only been here for a few days, but I can see that already. So I'm really excited to get started.
But you had to go through the Fishers Event Center and check it out, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yes. It's so
not
nice.
a bad seat in the house,
I mean, I played there, but I
Right.
was the opponent, so it doesn't feel the same.
No, it's a beautiful venue.
Yeah,
for sure.
I came here over the summer, and I saw, and they gave me a little tour, and It's beautiful. They give us everything we need to succeed here. I love it.
By the way, your chance to meet Cameron, her new teammates as well, coming up December 12th for Pepper's birthday. Pepper's the mascot. Pepper's birthday is December 12th.
Pepper
Did you know
is
this?
Incredible. I need her address.
So during your training camp or workouts that you guys are doing, you're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll get everybody that information from 5 until 7 o'clock on December 12th. Chance to come out and meet the team. And then January 24th, the home opener for the Indy Ignite, and we'll let you know what selection they make today as they have the 5th overall in round number 1 at this draft party at Parks Place Pub. Cameron, appreciate it. Welcome to town. All right.
Thank you. Thanks
Appreciate
for
the
having
time
me.
today. We look forward to having you back on. All right.
Yeah.
That is Cameron Hanna from the Indy Ignite. Colts yesterday disappointing in Kansas City. Indiana football was off. Indiana basketball about to get back into the mix of things. Don Fisher is the voice of the Hoosiers. Joins us next to discuss that and more as we are live here at Parks Place Pub. You're listening to Aquarian Company, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. at the Lounge, Parks Place Pub up in Fishers, as the Indy Ignite have their draft party for the Pro Volleyball League. And the pick is in for the Ignite, and they go with it. And why not? Why not? Thank you, Eddie. With the first pick in the professional volleyball draft, the Indy Ignite select Kara Kreese from the University of Louisville, but most importantly from Fort Wayne Blackhawk, a 6'6" middle blocker who was 7th in the nation last year in college volleyball in blocks, is now a member of the Indy Ignite. And that is a player that I think they really had their eye on with that 5th overall pick. So a loud ovation you may have heard when that selection was made. There will be plenty of ovations like that for Indiana fans if they are able to win the Old Oaken Bucket. And, of course, tomorrow against Kansas State in basketball. Joining us now on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. He is the voice of the Hoosiers in both sports. And we will, once again, Don, I'm going to give you recipient choice. Do you want to talk with football first or basketball first? The decision is yours, Don Fisher. Thanks for joining us.
Well, football has been prominent, of course, throughout the year until this past week in which they had a bye week, which came at a perfect time. So let's just touch on football first.
Okay, let's begin with that in terms of, and I want to touch on that, Don, because when a team is unblemished, as Indiana has been, and it has been a year, obviously they still own, in my opinion, the best win in college football this year, winning at Oregon. You know, everybody knows the story of the team, but when you say comes at the perfect time, I'm always curious about bye weeks in terms of when is the most advantageous period. You say it comes at the perfect time for them, for this team. Why?
Primarily because they had 6 games in a row, Jake, that were really all critical ball games throughout this season, and a couple of them were really exceptional in that sense, because you talk about the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Penn State Nittany Lions and Oregon on top of that. So these last 6 weeks have been a grind, to speak. Indiana's won several of those ball games by comfortable margins without question, but they've also had a couple of grinders in there too. And so at this point in the season, and I could tell in Coach Cignetti's comments and everything else leading up to that bye week that their team was tired. There's no question about that. They were a little bit out of gas, so to speak, not from the norm of being able to win a football game, but just simply being tired and a little bit lethargic. The Wisconsin first half wasn't very good, and they were just up 10-7 at halftime. And, of course, then they closed them out with 4 touchdowns in the second half. But it's a team really that needed this time, this week, a bye week, to get dings and injuries and those kinds of things cleaned up to some degree. Hopefully they've gotten a couple of these guys back with that bye week and the number of weeks that some of them have missed, i.e. Elijah Surratt being out of the lineup for the last 3 ball games. And Khalil Benson's been banged up, but he's been able to play. He's come off the field 2 or 3 times in the last couple of ball games and was really hobbling on that ankle, and he's had a chance to get better. And we still don't know the status of Drew Evans or Brendan Frankie, who's their kickoff man. Frankie's been missing for, I think, 6 weeks now. I'm hoping that maybe he gets back for this final stretch here if Indiana's to have that against Purdue, and then maybe in the Big Ten championship game, and then maybe in the CFP. So right now, this is a perfect time to have had this rest, and there's no question they'll be ready for the Old Oaken Bucket game on Friday night.
Don, listen, I realize that I'm preaching to the choir here, and I realize that this is probably not even a dead horse we're beating, but a tub of glue at this point. But at the same time, do you ever find yourself saying to yourself, I'm talking about the college football playoff for Indiana after the bucket game? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it still is. Part of me, 50% of me thinks it's totally surreal, and 50% of me says, no, this is where this program is now, and yet they have such a confidence about them that it feels like, in fact, they do, you know, they belong here, right? I mean, this is the reality now of Indiana football, and there's no reason to think that it's ever going to go away. But it is still kind of pinch yourself category, right?
Well, there's no question to have 2 seasons like we've had back-to-back. It doesn't take away all of the negatives throughout the years in Indiana football. You're always going to have a little bit of that doubt in the back of your mind. When is this going to end? Well, I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. Kurt Cignetti's here for the long haul based on everything that we know at this point, based on the new contract and those kinds of things. He said, I'm going to end my career being a Hoosier. I love that. So I really believe this is the long haul for Indiana now. I think this is what Indiana fans can expect. The question is, do they make the CFP? Will they continue to do that on a consistent basis? And will they be as powerful as they've looked here the last 2 seasons? My gut is that they will, but we'll just have to wait and see. And every year is a new year, and every year is another year of roster building and those kinds of things out of the portal, and that, because that stuff is just not going to change. So all I can tell you at this point is we're just going to ride that horse as long as we can.
Don, I look at, in particular, Surratt is a wonderful player, right? And he has been everything that you would imagine and want from a player to come with Curt Cignetti from JMU. But yet when he got hurt, and I take this, as no knock on what he brings to this football team, but when he has been out now, Indiana's ability, and notably to get Becker involved at the receiving position, does that speak more just about the overall preparation of the roster by Curt Cignetti, or is that also somewhat responsible for Fernando Mendoza and his ability to get guys involved, recognize them, and carry on even when one of his biggest weapons goes down?
Well, I'm sure it's a combination of both. There's little question that Becker has talent. He played some last year. He was a really good player last year when he played, and he didn't get much opportunity. This year, he's gotten all kinds of opportunity over the last 3 ball games now, and he even had some playing time prior to that, but not to the significance of which, of course, with Elijah Surratt out, that he now is one of the keys to this wide receiving core. And without doubt, he has taken advantage of that. I also think it's a part of the development because he was a freshman last year and played some as a true freshman. And now this year, he's come out there and just established himself as another guy they can count on. And whether that's a starting role or coming in off the bench, he's going to get playing time for the rest of the season. There's no doubt about it because he's very valuable. He's long. He's 6'4". He's a little bit bigger than what Elijah Surratt is, and he's faster than Elijah Surratt. So there's no doubt in my mind he's going to get play.
Don Fisher is our guest, the radio voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, both in football and basketball. Coach's show tonight. It will follow the Pacers game. That will be with Darren DeVries. That means I'm talking about now the basketball side of things. Up next is Kansas State for Indiana. Don, in terms of this team, and we've talked about this I love this offense that Darren DeVries runs because, and I know I heard Brian Evans talking about it with JMV, you better get out and guard with them because they got guys that can score quickly, but then all of a sudden, if that shot is taken away, their ball movement for guys that are not familiar with one another or had not been at the beginning of the year has been really impressive. But what area of this basketball team is still leaving you a little bit intrigued that you still have some questions about to see what they can shore up before they get into league play?
Well, and this is going to sound a kind of maybe, I don't want to say trite, but here's one of the things that we haven't had the total of at this point from this basketball team, and that's the roster. They've had 4 guys out almost up until the last week and a half, 2 weeks now. Nick Dorn, kid that everybody's talked about being the third best shooter on this basketball team, hadn't played until about 3 games back. All of a sudden, he's getting a little bit of playing time. He is showing that he's got the capability. He hasn't gotten into the kind of shape that he needs to at this point. But he's going to help this team when he is in full shape and when he is able to play significant minutes on the court. They haven't seen Josh Harris, who's a 6'7", 6'8" kid out of North Florida that is nursing an injury of some kind. And I don't know what the injury is. They've got another guard by the name of Jason Drake, who is a kid from, I'm spacing on it now. Anyway, long story short, he's a point guard who can help fill that role. And then Alex Ristic, who is from Serbia, hasn't seen the playing floor because of a foot injury. So you've got these guys that are still waiting in the wings to get their opportunities when they finally heal up enough that they can put them on the floor. So we're not having seen the entire ball club right now. And that's probably right now the biggest question mark as to whether these other guys that are hurt can really help this basketball team. I can't see any reason why they can't. I saw them play in San Juan when they had all of these guys available, and there's no doubt in my mind that these other guys can help them, but You've got to wait and see until they get back and see how they handle things and how they are mentally from the injury situation, whether that's going to be a factor. I don't see a real weakness with this team with the exception of one thing. They don't have a ton of size. They just simply do not. And the rebounding, in the Big Ten is critical. And if there's going to be a weakness on this ball club, that's the one area I might take a look at first.
Jason Drake, by the way, from Drexel, I think. And admittedly,
yeah.
Don, I mean, and with the transfer portal, it's tough, right? I mean, with guys trying to keep straight sometimes with where all of them had come from. Do you like where Indiana is defensively?
Well, there's no question about that. They held Lindenwood to 18% shooting. Got another player, did they? They held Lindenwood to 18% shooting in the first half. In the second half, and the total for the ball game, 25% shooting. This team plays as hard as any team you're going to see on the defensive end of the floor. They may not stop everybody, but I guarantee you they will challenge just about everything you try to do out there from an offensive standpoint.
Don, one of the things I like is, going out and playing, say, at Kansas State. Anytime that a team can go out and play other Power 5 schools, to me, it's advantageous because it can give you, obviously you know what you're going up against in terms of a stout opponent going into, as opposed to, and nothing against Lindenwood. I don't mean that, but you get what I'm saying in terms of the league itself.
Yeah.
Has Indiana faced a diversity of different looks and different styles? Because when you get into conference play, you get teams that play different ways. Do you feel like so far the schedule has offered them various looks that they've had to adjust to?
I think a significant number, but I'm not sure it's all that they need to look at. They have not faced a team that's bigger, a lot bigger than they are at this point. And the Kansas State roster doesn't pose, a significant challenge in that area based on who they start. They've got 2 6'9" guys that are frontliners for them, and a guy that comes off the bench that's, I think, a 6 or 7'2" kid, but I don't know how much he'll actually play. So the game that they play against Kansas State will be just because Kansas State they are a tremendous offensive team at this point in the season. They're averaging 93 points a ball game. They're giving up 79, almost 80 points a contest at this juncture. So we know that they probably will run just like Indiana wants to run. But their 5 starters are all averaging in double figures, with P.J. Haggerty of transfer from Memphis averaging 28 points a ball game. So they've got some prolific scorers on this team, guys that can shoot the three, and this is going to be a challenge in that regard.
Indiana, Kansas State tomorrow night. It is the bucket game coming up on Friday. Don Fisher will be on the call for both of them. And then, of course, sandwiched in between is Thanksgiving. So, Don, a very, very happy Thanksgiving to you. Appreciate the time as always. And, again, Coach's Show tonight after the Pacers game on this radio station. Appreciate it, Don.
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it. See ya.
Don Fisher joining me on the program. Again, Parks Place Pub is where we are. The Indy Ignite are doing their draft party. They had 2 first-round picks. They made the 5th pick overall already. It is Kara Kress out of Louisville. I think I might have said her last name incorrectly earlier. Kara Kress out of Louisville, native of Fort Wayne, who was 7th in the nation last year in blocks at Louisville. Now joins 2 former Cardinal teammates on the Indy Ignite roster, and we'll get you up to speed on who else is rounding out their roster today over the course of the show today. When we come back, taking a look back again yesterday at what happened, including one area of the game where I thought the Colts actually maybe tipped their hand a little bit as to who they think they are versus who in reality they were, and what Kansas City said that was interesting about it. We'll get to all of that, and Mike Chappell joins us coming up 1 o'clock here. Query and Company, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Thank you to Don Fisher for his time. Indiana, Kansas State tomorrow in basketball. Obviously, the bucket game coming up on Saturday. Speaking of Purdue, need to get into the discussion, or Friday, need to get into the discussion for Purdue from a basketball standpoint, because that was an absolute evisceration of Texas Tech. And when Purdue is clicking like that, and I get it, teams have ebb and flows over the course of the year, but we will get into discussion about Matt Painter's group and what they did and why they absolutely stamped the fact. Anybody that after the Oakland game, for example, had concerns, the wrong word, but if there was any question about the level of play for Purdue and how good they are, that was silenced in the way that they took Texas Tech out of that game and I thought really controlled things on the low post. We'll get into that later in the program. Talking about just the ebb and flows of teams and the way that over the course of a year you can look back sometimes and say, man, you remember at the beginning of the year we thought this or thought that. I hope it's not the case that that's what we're going to say about the Colts. I hope that we're not going to look back at the end of the year when they are tussling their way, trying to hold on tenuously to the AFC South because they have struggled against Houston or Jacksonville, who they have to see still, both of them twice. I hope that that's not the case, and I hope that they are able to recapture what it was that got them out to the start they had before going into the Pittsburgh game, where we're talking about number one seed, and we're talking about home field, and we're talking about, and then the seismic trade and giving up two number ones, and that means that they are committed to Daniel Jones. I thought yesterday where they erred, as I mentioned, and I'm going to say this over the course of today on literally on repeat. Where they erred yesterday was the fact that they got away from Jonathan Taylor. And I get it. I think human nature came into play, and I think Shane Steichen tipped his hand with that of human nature. Because Shane Steichen, by nature, is an aggressive coach. Shane Steichen, by nature, likes to go out and, think about the beginning of the year. Rigoberto Sanchez had the best gig on the planet because it was like, man, they don't even use the guy. And when you had a 4th and 4, virtually every other time, seemingly, the Colts would have been in that position, especially when they had a chance to put a game away on the road. And I know Kansas City this year, it's not your vintage Kansas City, but it kind of still is. Because you still have Mahomes, and you still have Kelsey, and you still have Rice, and you still have Jones on the defensive side, and you still have Arrowhead, and the aura and the lure that goes into Arrowhead. Even though that is a place where the Colts have had the number for certain, against a franchise where they've had the number for certain. But what was interesting to me is Steichen, as a guy that has been overly aggressive, yesterday reverted back away completely in all areas to being conservative. And yet conservatively, what you do when you're being conservative is hand off the football. And then, so which is it? Like, are we upset because he was conservative in getting away from the run and not going for it on a 4th and 4? Or was he too aggressive by continuing to go through the air? I think what happened is simple. And that is that Shane Steichen wanted to stick with what had gotten him there, and that has been the ability to awaken Daniel Jones and the symbiotic relationship between Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And when Steichen felt that starting to go away yesterday and Jones not getting in rhythm, I think he just consistently kept punching that number, hoping that eventually that was going to get back on the tracks and get going. And it just never took form. They could not get the passing game going. Jones could not get in rhythm. And then as a result of that, their defense could not get any rest whatsoever and just had to keep going out, and that allowed Mahomes to do Mahomes things. But we'll talk about that and more with Mike Chappell. We'll do it when we come back again live up in Fishers at the Parks Place Pub for the Indy Ignite Draft Party. They're drafting 14th also overall. That is technically a second-round pick, but they're going to be on the clock again shortly. Or the Indy Ignite will let you know who they're going to get that's going to join Kara Kress in this rookie class. We'll do it as it happens, but Mike Chappell from CBS 4 and WXIN Fox 59 joins us next. Cool. Parks Place Pub. It is the Major League Volleyball Draft Day, and Pepper is here with me. Give me a high five, Pepper. Pepper's showing up here on the Zoom on the YouTube channel for us. Pepper's birthday, December 12th, for the Indy Ignite. Pepper's birthday's be 1 year old, December 12th. Pepper just gave me an autograph with a small heart. Things got very quiet here. The Indy Ignite getting ready to make their draft pick, the second pick that they will make today. They have the 14th overall pick. Right now, the draft is up to pick number 9 in round number 2. And so as a result of that, we will see who is going to join Kara Kress, who was their first overall pick, the 5th overall pick in the draft out of the University of Louisville. So we will keep an eye on that over the course of today. December the 12th for Pepper's birthday party. Your chance to come between 5 and 7 p.m. Pepper will be there. Kids can meet the team. The team is going to be working hard for their January 24th home opener. But December 12th, your chance to meet the Indy Ignite. You have to go to their website for that information. Also, we have tickets to give away for the Big Ten Fan Fest, as the Big Ten Championship will be taking place at Lucas Oil Stadium. That is on coming up on December the 6th. But the Fan Fest tickets to give away, Eddie Garrison, you were going to give them away in what fashion?
We're going to do this on the text line. The Fan Fest ticket giveaway is a 4-pack of tickets for Friday, December the 5th at the Convention Center. This is from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. It'll have interactive games, some entertainment, mascots, Jake. Maybe the Oregon Duck will be in attendance. We don't know. The Bull for sure, or the Hoosier Bison will be there, I would assume.
Hey, listen, that
Spirit
Brutus
Squad,
fella's not going to be there, is he?
I hope not.
Okay. But I bet he will.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
Brutus will be there.
Yeah. Ale Emporium has been announced to be the presenting sponsor of the first ever world-famous Hermanaki wing eating contest. And that'll feature some top-ranked major eating athletes, Jake. So that is from 3 to 9 on Friday, December the 5th. We have plenty of 4-pack of tickets to give away. You got to come up with either the keyword or a quick trivia question, Jake, for people to text in at 317-239-1070, and that's how we'll give away the tickets.
Okay, so I've got to come up with a trivia question.
Yep.
That means I got to text you the answer. You know, we should have Chap come up with a trivia question. You know what? Here, I'm going to give, my favorite trivia question of all time. Let's bring on Mike Chappell. I will send you, Eddie, the answer to the trivia question I come up with. It's not going to be this one. Mike Chappell I'm going to bring on. Chap, my all-time favorite, and I've asked it on this show 2,050 times, but I'm going to put you on the spot, Mike Chappell, with a Colts trivia question. Are you ready?
Okay.
Who was the first ever draft pick of the Indianapolis Colts?
Gosh, Ron Solt or the DB Leonard Coleman. Leonard Coleman.
Bingo, baby. Leonard. No, it's Leonard Coleman. Ron Solt actually was.
I knew it was one or the other.
I think Ron Solt was. He was the last first-round pick of Baltimore, I believe. But Leonard Coleman was indeed the first draft pick of the Indianapolis Colts. He went to the USFL, cornerback out of Vanderbilt, and then played for the Colts after that. Mike Chappell joining us on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. Chap, let's get right to this yesterday at Arrowhead, and then I'll give Eddie the trivia question for the tickets. Chap, in your opinion, Shane Steichen, what do you think was the overwhelming sentiment that caused him to go a little bit conservative and get away from Jonathan Taylor? Or was he too aggressive because they're going to the air instead of Jonathan Taylor? What exactly was the reason why we didn't see Taylor much in the fourth and overtime?
Wow. And it's really strange, and I'll be Jake and I'll meander a little bit here. I think he trusted Daniel Jones more than he should have, and then they didn't execute. I mean, it's hard for me to believe. I go back to what Peyton Manning used to tell me, that he just hated to run plays when he knew they wouldn't work. They're wasted plays. And I think they really believed that they could not run the ball on the Chiefs. And the final numbers would show you that. And we would argue, well, running more, and he'll break a few. But I think they really believed after that 2-yard loss on 1st and 10 at their own 6-yard line, they just decided that Daniel Jones was going to win the game for them, or not turn to be. So yeah, and the problem with trusting Daniel Jones right now is that I don't trust him. That's me. He has taken a step or two back from what we saw the first 8 games. I think pressure's getting to him. There were no sacks yesterday, but they got in his face, and I thought they sped him up. He missed a few guys that he hasn't missed, and he got away with a couple that should have been interceptions. So, but yeah, I think they just they put the ball in Jones's hands. Boy, there was that 3rd and 3 near midfield. I think on the last regulation drive, and he misses, and he led Pittman too much. And if you complete that, I mean, it's totally different. I realized they had an 11-point lead, a 2-possession lead with the ball in the fourth quarter, but it was that first and 10 at your own 6. That's tough, getting out of there. But they had the ball twice when it was 20-17, and each time, pretty good field position. Once was like on the 30, and the last one was like on the 49. And I really wonder that when Shane Steichen goes back and self-scouts, that's a good term we use nowadays, if instead of punting from the KC 45, that he doesn't go for, what was it, fourth and 3, because how many times have and the rationale is sound. Well, we pinned them back there with the penalty. They were back at like the 6-yard line. So the rationale worked, but it's Patrick Mahomes. And how many times have we seen him take the Chiefs to whatever they need and either win the game, tie the game? This is one where in hindsight, I think you stay aggressive or you be aggressive, whatever term you want to use, and you try to convert. And if you do, at the very least, you're going to run some more time off the clock. Maybe you just finally find some rhythm and you run the clock out. You go down and score. And if you kick a field goal, you make them go for a touchdown. I really would like to know if he would like a do-over on that last punt. And as much they lead the league in fourth down conversions and being aggressive. So I wonder if he'd like that one over again.
By the way, Eddie, here is the trivia question. Mike Chappell is our guest, Java House Peel and Pour guest line. Everything, by the way, today at javahouse.com, 25% off. And then you can add on to that, of course, Jake25 code. You can double up the discounts at Java House. javahouse.com. Put in my name, Jake, and you can get the fan bundle. Eddie, in terms of the tickets for the text line, if you want to give your guess at 239-1070 for your chance to win FanFest tickets, here is the trivia question that I came up with. Lucas Oil Stadium has been the home of the Big Ten Championship game for quite some time now, a decade and a half. Who was the first ever Big Ten Championship game in football to be named most valuable player in Lucas Oil Stadium? The very first year that the Big Ten football championship game was played in Lucas Oil Stadium, who was the MVP of that game? And yes, he went on to bigger things even beyond that recognition. 239-1070 is where you can text your guess. Eddie Garrison has the answer. The first one will win their tickets to the Fan Fest. Chap, let's get back to talking yesterday about the aggression or lack thereof for Shane Steichen. How much of that was Shane Steichen, do you believe, knowing that Daniel Jones was off and trying to continue to push the right buttons to give him the confidence or to simply get him going in that game yesterday and, erring in terms of that? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Did he keep going to the well hoping that it was going to get on track?
Yes, I think he did. And that's one where maybe the stubbornness was a bad thing. I don't think the fourth quarter is where you're trying. The fourth quarter with the lead is where you're trying to get your quarterback going. By that time, you've got a pretty good sample size on what's working. But at the same time, the run game wasn't working, and yes, because they weren't running the ball, and they weren't running the ball well at all on first down, which gets them in bad situations. It's one of those. It's one of those in hindsight that when something doesn't work, you should have done something else. well, that play didn't work. Why did you call something else? Well, because I thought that play was going to work. And again, I just thought that some of the plays, like that 3rd and 3 was a great play call because Pittman got separation and he was open over the middle, and Jones missed him because he felt pressure from the backside and he's thrown off his back foot. That's a play that he's made so many times this year, and there were 3 or 4 that he just missed guys. He was high to Pierce in the end zone on the one, although Pierce was covered, I guess. So, yeah, this offense is not going to work with Daniel Jones being that inefficient. And then he was 10 for 12 for, whatever it was, 94 yards on the first half, and he was dialing it up. But then he started feeling pressure, real or perceived. I think most time it's real. They are putting pressure on him, and he's just not being as efficient, whether he's seeing things, whether he's not trusting his throw, whether he's getting rid of the ball a little too quick. So I think, again, teams are saying, and teams are going to say, we're going to let Jones beat us. We're not letting Jonathan Taylor beat us. And that's pretty sound, a pretty sound approach. And then, oh, by the way, you've got Houston coming up, and their defense is better. It's the best defense in the league, so they've got to get this fixed. I just posted something on Twitter that these next 6 games will tell us so much about where this franchise, not just this team, but where this franchise goes from here. I can argue that it's – go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, and I agree with that, because here's the thing. I've mentioned this. The 6 games, you got 4 of them against Jacksonville and Houston. And Houston's putting it together a little bit here, defensively, notably, right? I mean, that is an aggressive defense and a sound defense. And what's
right.
What you got to make note of with Houston, Stroud probably coming back, but they've won 3 in a row here with Davis. I mean, you know what I mean? They've done it without Stroud under center because of their defense. And then you throw in Seattle and San Francisco as the other one. So it gets real for them schedule standpoint here, okay? Is it too early, Chad? If this goes south, and I'm not saying it's going to, but if it does, do we then start to question the price paid for Sauce Gardner, who has played really well and I think is an elite-level player? But giving up 2 first-rounders now, did they buy into Daniel Jones too early?
Well, I don't know. That's what that's a good question. I saw when people said, "Well, you signed Jones to an extension right now." This is like when they were going great guns after 8 games. And of course, you don't. You just don't. You wait and see how this thing plays out. And if they get this turned around, which they can, they should have beaten the Rams, who right now are the best team in football, and they dropped 38 on the Chargers on the road. And they could have. I tell you, the best comment I saw on social media, and if I could remember who posted it, I'd tell you. But he said Colt fans, 1, should be pissed off for the game, how it went. But number 2, they should come away from that game believing they can beat anybody in the AFC, and that's true. I mean, who in the AFC we can't beat those guys? There's nobody. So, but not play, and again, make 2 plays in the fourth quarter and you win. Make a stop or make a conversion and keep the ball. So at least you're sort of in the mix. I've never bought into there were the third best odds to win, not go to, but to win the Super Bowl. And I didn't buy into the JT being MVP just because he's a running back and it's easier to take him out of the mix. But this team is still good enough to do things. But they're going to have to bring their A game in the next 6 weeks. Again, I always said Houston was the bigger game, not the Chiefs. Houston was the bigger game. And then you're going to Jacksonville, which you haven't won there since 13 or 14? So you've really got to get things back together and rediscover who you are offensively. I think the defense will be okay. When I posted my story today, the whole premise was don't blame the defense, blame the offense. But I'm telling you, the defense had so many chances, in the second half to close that game, and they didn't. But I thought they held the fort as long as they could. But they've got to get this thing back together, and if they don't, it's hard to imagine what might take place if they go from 7-1, 8-2, and not make the playoffs. I think, and again, yeah, they made that trade for Sauce Gardner because they were in position to really do something special, and that dovetailed with, and Daniel Jones can take them there. And if that's not the case, I don't know how you reload. I'm not saying you're stuck with Gardner. You've got the trade moving forward, and he and Charvarius Ward and Cam Bynum, those guys are young and they're locked up for 3 or 4 years. But if it goes south with Daniel Jones, I hope it doesn't. But I understand everyone's skepticism and concerns. I understand that. It's a much bigger sample size that he's not played well at times than there is that he's played well at times. And if it doesn't work with him, you're back on the Ferris wheel of quarterbacks without 2 first-round draft picks.
Mike Chappell's my guest here from CBS 4 and WXAN Fox 59 on the Java House Peel and Port guest line. By the way, Parks Place Pub is where I'm broadcasting here today. It is the Major League Volleyball Draft and the Indy Ignite Draft Party taking place. They're just a couple picks away from making their second selection in the draft. We'll get you that information as it happens. Chap, yesterday, was that actually it's interesting because you can look at it and say the Atlanta game is the case in point for Jonathan Taylor as the most valuable player and what he did in Atlanta and the numbers of that, if you were making the MVP argument. Indirectly, was yesterday not actually the game that most proves his value to this franchise because they went away from him and that's where they lost?
Yeah, but then I could argue, too, if Daniel Jones makes a couple of throws, then he wins the game. It's however you want to frame it. I always put the court. I'm watching Matthew Stafford right now, and he's the MVP unless he just goes in the tank, which he won't. But they put the football in Daniel Jones's hands and say, "Win it for us," and he couldn't and didn't. Not all on him. It's never just the one phase, but he had opportunities to win that game. He just did. He got him in position to win it in the first half, and then he couldn't close it. And, yeah, I get your point on JT. That's why the quarterback generally is the MVP because the ball's in his hands. It's out of the running back's hands so much. You know, what if they call a run and the quarterback checks to a pass? So yeah, I understand what you're saying. I still say it's more on the quarterback, and he has got to play better. Also, by the way, just for facts' sake, since we like facts, Ron Salt was the first-round draft pick in '84 here. Leonard Coleman was the first-round pick that year.
Oh, so they were the same draft class.
Correct, 84. Yep.
But Coleman went before him. Okay, I was the first. And Salt is one, not to go on the way back here, chap, but he was a really good player. But didn't he have like a shoulder injury that ended up kind of, and then he ended up getting traded to Philadelphia or went to Philadelphia? Did he not? Am I wrong in that?
Yes, I'm not. There were things going on. He had the injury, and then he ended up coming back here, I think.
That's what it was. He actually, here's what it was. I think they drafted him, traded him to Philly, and I can't remember what the nature of that trade was, and then he didn't end up coming back here until later, and then he had the shoulder injury, and they kind of got him like on the cheap. I think that's correct, right? Or did he start here?
No, I think he played here. He had a holdout.
Okay.
He had an early holdout as a rookie. I'm flashing through as we kill time. I'm looking through the media guys. He started here.
Okay.
Yeah, he started here for like 3 or 4 years, and then they traded him, or he went.
Okay, that's what it was.
He got cross-eyed with Bob Irsay, which is never a good thing to do. And but ended up being a pretty good player. But the shoulder injury really bothered him. Yes.
Bob Irsay pretty much lived cross-eyed, didn't he? I mean, isn't that, you know what I mean? If we're being honest here, I mean, there wasn't a lot of focused vision there, right?
Well,
we could write
especially
an
after
entire
11
book
o'clock
on that.
Just get to him before lunch.
Yeah, I mean, you could actually, you know, we could write an entire story on that. Mike Chappell, my guest, joining me now, Java House Peel and Pork guest line. I'm live at Parks Place Pub, Indy Ignite. They actually just showed up on the video board here at the Major League Volleyball Draft. They showed a photo from the draft party that's taking place here at Parks Place Pub up in Fishers. Chap, Shavarius Ward was pretty honest and candid, and I think probably to the point of surprising a lot of people in terms of talking about what he went through with that second concussion and how, you know, there was a time where he thought he wouldn't even maybe play the rest of the year because that concussion was so severe in which he came back. And I want to make very clear here, I'm not making light of that in any way, shape, or form, or the severity that players have to think about when it comes to those things. But yesterday, late in the game, there were times where Ward, I thought, looked late to getting to the play. Now, would you attribute that more to A, fatigue, B, a guy that simply was coming off of IR and there is rust there, or C, is there concern that that injury lingers now to the point where he is not the same player he was prior?
I don't think there's a concern over that, although I'll tell you, I was concerned when he got blown up on that blindside lock. I thought, well, he's going back on concussion. And we'll find out from Coach today. Sometimes these guys, there's something a day after. No, I don't think that. But I was struck by his openness on the concussion that he had on that pregame with the Arizona game and how severe it was and how long it lingered. And what also struck me is how he's still, and I understand this, how he's still fighting the emotions of losing his daughter, he and his fiancée losing their daughter. I think October was like the 1-year anniversary. And that's one of the reasons that he so much needed to get out of San Francisco for all the memories he had, bad memories he had there. And so the concussion and all that he was going through coincided with his emotional issues with losing his daughter. So it was all of that. And anyone who's lost a daughter, a child, understands that it doesn't go away. It gets better, but it never goes away. And I think that really had him doing some soul searching on where he was as a person, not necessarily a football player, but the fact that those concussion symptoms linger. He said he was dizzy for a month. So I think that was concerning. And every time I see a player like that get blown up again on the field, I think, oh my, is this another one? And obviously, the more you have, the more susceptible you are to him. And he's had two. He's had two this year. So hopefully when we talked to Shane Steichen today, there was no day after problems with Mooney. He'll get better. They'll get better the more he and Sauce Gardner play together. That they will. He's missed so much time, Ward has, with concussions. It's just, you know, we kind of think these elite players, you just put them in and play them. But there's more to it than that. So hopefully he's fine. And hopefully, the more he and Gardner play together, this defense is what they need it to be.
Chap, speaking of players that, you know, have to look back at past experience, and I'm not comparing the loss of a child to not playing well in the NFL. I'm not. However, I do think that, you know, Daniel Jones, we don't know well. In terms of his makeup. If he struggles another game, is there, do you think, concern within the franchise that it could psychologically revert him back to what he was in New York, and then he starts chasing ghosts a little bit of the ghosts of Christmas past, and then you find yourself in a hole where a guy kind of hides away there a little bit psychologically?
Well, I mean, you have to always be concerned with that. I mean, from the outside looking in, I'm sure the team will fight that. But again, there's a much, much larger sample size of him not playing well for a lot of reasons. The Giants are a totally dysfunctional. We're a mess. But part of that was on him. And every time, the first time he struggled against Pittsburgh, people said, well, there you go. There's the Jones that played in New York. And then they sort of got it back against Atlanta, but then here we go again. They've lost 2 of 3. Not all on him at all. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you don't have concerns with that. Because, again, they're not asking him to carry this team at all. They're not. They're not throwing the ball 50 times a game. But they need him. You know, the third down conversions are like 33% the last 3 games. Well, you know, you got to be in the mid 40s. Move the chains. And I went back and looked. The last time they went 4 straight possessions without a first down was like against Denver in Denver last year. So that's not the way. And they don't do 3 and outs very much here. They just don't. So and so much of those conversions are on the quarterback. It just is. I'm going to take a few minutes here when we're done and look at what his passing is on third down in the last 3 games. That's when the really good teams, you know, keep things going and they move the chains and they have you cussing at the defense for not getting off the field. And this team did that early in the year. In the last 3 games, they really haven't done that enough.
Mike Chappell is my guest, Java House Peel and Pork guest line. Chap, I guess after the I'll table this one. I was going to ask you, like, what DEFCON level we are here of this maybe starting to turn in the wrong direction for the Colts, but I don't want it to be overreaction Monday, so I'll wait until after the Houston game. I think if they don't beat Houston at home, then we start having that discussion, right?
If they lose to Houston at home, it's DEFCON 2.5. Because then you go to Jacksonville.
Right now it's 1.75, right?
Right now, to me, it's like 3.5, 4. DEFCON 5 is hey, everything is hunky dory, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So one's when you kiss your ass goodbye. So I don't think we're there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But here they're 4, and if you lose to Houston, it's 2.5 in my mind.
Okay, you're halfway. So you're starting to bend over a little bit. Is what we're getting at, right? Is that what we're getting at?
Yeah. I'm looking for my. Right. I'm digging a hole in my backyard for my bus.
That's right. All right, chap. Appreciate the time as always, man.
Be well, bud.
All right, Mike Chappell joining us on the Java House Peel and Pork guest line. Again, Parks Place Pub, where I'm located right now, it is the Indy Ignite Draft Party, and December the 12th from 5 until 7, your chance to meet the team, including the 4 members that will be joining today. Kara Cressy, again, was their first pick, the 5th overall out of the University of Louisville, 7th in the nation last year in blocks, and now a member of the Indy Ignite. They are... right now, to use a baseball term, they're not on deck. They're in the hole because now they are officially going to be on the clock. Pick number 13 of the second round is getting underway with Orlando, and the Indy Ignite will be back on the clock, and things will pick up here in terms of the noise you'll hear behind me, and we'll let you know exactly what is going on with the Major League Volleyball draft taking place. We come back. There was something that took place going into the weekend that needs attention. People have been telling me, they said, Jake, you're not talking about it enough. You're not talking about it enough. I will take care of that. We'll talk about it, and I'll let you know what it is next. Indy Ignite are on the clock. Matter of fact, their selection is in. I'll be able to tell you very quickly who it is that they have selected. It is, in fact, the libero with the 14th pick in the Major League Volleyball draft. The Indy Ignite select Emma Halter from the University of Texas and Indianapolis Roncalli High School as a libero, a 5'5 libero, SEC all-defensive player. As Emma Halter, who is from right here in the south side of Indianapolis, now will be playing on the north side professionally at the Fishers Event Center, just across from the Parks Place Pub, where we are broadcasting live for the Indy Ignite draft party. So, pick number 2, a player from the area for the Indy Ignite. The weekend began, and it feels, admittedly, like a long time ago. I mean, that's just kind of how things go in terms of the sports calendar, especially on a weekend that had it packed with the Colts and the Chiefs yesterday, and we've been talking a lot about that. But several people have said to me, Jake, you got to talk more about Purdue basketball. And my natural defense mechanism is to say, I think we talk plenty about Purdue basketball, but I understand it. I understand why that sentiment would be there and why seemingly we're not talking enough about them, because I don't know that you can talk enough about what we saw on Friday night. Purdue taking on Texas Tech, and I simply made the point that Texas Tech basketball, to me, the way that Texas Tech has played the last handful of years, if you watch them in the NCAA tournament going all the way back to, you know, not even necessarily the current era of Texas Tech basketball. But if you look at the way that they play and what makes Texas Tech different, what makes them formidable as an opponent, I think Texas Tech is as well coached as anybody in college basketball. And they don't jump out at you as a team that you look at and say, you know, they have like this uber number of athletes. I mean, they have good players, don't get me wrong. But the way that, and I always liken this back to, you can just tell when teams, from a scouting standpoint, are well prepared. And they know, I go back to, I call it the Dennis Rodman effect. You know, Dennis Rodman was, yes, it helps that he's an elite level rebounder, an elite level athlete. You know what I mean? When you look at the spring of a Dennis Rodman, there's a reason he was averaging, 20 rebounds a game. But what you don't hear about with Dennis Rodman is the fact that, I've read numerous things about Dennis Rodman in terms of, as a player, he would watch just countless amounts of tape on opponents, and he would watch guys that shot a lot and figure out where more often than not from a spot on the floor where they would shoot it. Like this guy, when he would shoot it, he shoots short. This guy shoots long. The rebound goes this way, goes that way. He was perfectly prepared with each and every game, and you don't realize that in terms of knowing where the ball carom was at all times. And Texas Tech, to me, Grant McCaslin, to me, in watching them, in particular last year in the NCAA tournament, they are a team that seemingly knows where the ball is bouncing at every point. They are so well prepared in terms of their spacing, their defense, etc. I think that they do as good a job of that as anybody in college basketball. So to watch Purdue go in a game against a top 20 team, and the Purdue that you look at and you say, okay, they were ranked number 1, they fell to number 2 because they didn't blow out Oakland by as much as we thought they would. And then you look at what they did against Texas Tech. And they absolutely, when I said it earlier, they eviscerated Texas Tech. And that is a very good basketball team. And that is a team in Texas Tech that more often than not is going to win games because of just simply like the precision in which they run. And just outsmarting is probably the wrong word, but out-technicaling, if that's the word, being more technically sound than opponent. That kind of is how Texas Tech has been able to do things the last handful of years. And Purdue took that and wadded it up and threw it in the trash. And it comes down to so many different areas. You forget about Trey Kaufman-Wren and how good he is on the low block and his ability to back down and then really score with either hand, which he did in that game. You forget about that when you're watching them. You forget about Braden Smith in terms of his ability to make a pass that seemingly no one else even sees as a possibility of a floor angle he's able to make, or the behind-the-back pass on the break and those things. You forget about Fletcher Lawyer and the heat check ability for him to, when he's got it going, to hit from anywhere. And in addition to that, when Lawyer hits, and then it becomes contagious because he has this energy with the way, like he'll hit a shot, and then he's kind of running backwards down the floor with that kind of grin on his face. And I say that in a good way. And I think that's contagious. And it gives – the point about Purdue that I'm making here is this, and I said this the other day. That is the most well-balanced team in the country. It goes without saying they're the best team in college basketball. They are the best team in college basketball. And the reason they're the best team in college basketball is because each time that you and hit some shots down low to stay and hanging around with them, then they find a different guy on the floor to make plays for them. Oscar Clough and what he brings to the table in terms of it, he had one play in that game against Texas Tech where he literally got like a one-armed rebound, got fouled, and it completely – I mean, Texas Tech was completely defeated. At that point, the game was over anyway because Purdue, they're up 23, then they're up 25, then they're doubling them up. I'm telling you, it's the fact that it is impossible for even – and I think the world of Grant McCaslin as a coach, I really do. And even with that, seemingly they were out of options because that team, Purdue, every time that you think that you have found the key to success on what makes them run, they seem to come up with a different piston that then you say, well, I didn't think about that one. I didn't think about Oscar Clough. I didn't think about – that is the best team in college basketball. That is the most complete team in college basketball. That is the best right now program in college basketball. I know that they have not won the titles UConn has, I know, et cetera. But in terms of their stability to get players to buy in and what Matt Painter's doing, I mean, truly, truly special stuff. Now, are they going to maintain that for the course of the year? I don't know. That's one of the challenges for any team, obviously. We mentioned the fact that the Indy Ignite draft is taking place. Parks Place Pub is where I am right now. Again, December 12th, your chance to meet the team for Pepper's birthday. You can go to the Indy Ignite website to get the information for that from 5 to 7. Great chance for kids to come out and meet the team. Also, January 24th, the home opener for the Indy Ignite. And I'm telling you, the Fishers Event Center, beautiful place, and their games are awesome, nonstop action. They now have 2 players drafted today, and we will continue to update you because they are halfway through at least what was scheduled for them in terms of the draft. You know, they can still make a trade and get another pick. But speaking of the Indy Ignite, we will talk to one of their players, and we'll do it on the other side. Colts Chiefs, well, we will continue breaking that down upcoming. Also news out of the AFC North. One quarterback is now a starter in Cleveland. One quarterback is on his way back in Cincinnati. We will get you up to speed on both of those things as well. But again, speaking of our house, for the Indy Ignite, their house is the Fishers Event Center. It is just across the way here from Parks Place Pub, which is where I currently am for the Indy Ignite Major League Volleyball Draft Party. The Ignite have made 2 selections, and joining me now on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line, she is a player that goes by simply one letter, and you know you're good when you go by one letter, Eddie. When I was a kid, I think I told you that people would call me Q, and that was always cool until that QAnon conspiracy theory thing came about, and then I had to do away with it. But Ajani Teeler is with the Indy Ignite. She is entering her 3rd year of professional volleyball, her 2nd with the franchise. Joining me now on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line, and I'm simply going to call you Z. Is that cool?
That's perfect. I love it.
I love it too. If I had a letter Z in my name, which you do, which is the reason for the nickname, I would go by it as well. But let's go by this and ask about this, and that is just the name and the brand of the Indy Ignite and the style of volleyball now that you guys have a new coach that you want to play. My understanding is you guys want to play aggressive. You want to play fast. And I don't know how much you have been able to see who has joined your team now in terms of this draft, but the first is Kara Cressy, who is a blocker that is 7th in the nation last year in college volleyball in blocking, and now Emma Halter at the libero position as well. What things do you look at Z and say these are the areas we need to shore up from a year ago?
Yeah, I've gotten to talk a lot to Coach Bertolacci, Lauren a ton, and I know she wants to be aggressive and fast, and we're going to compete really hard and be really organized, so I'm really excited about that change. And I've been very locked in on the draft, and Kara Cressy and Emma Halter, both from Indiana, I think, and so I think there's no better picks than those two. I've gotten to play against both of them in some capacity, and so I know that they're high-level players and competitors, and I can't wait for them to be here. They're gonna improve our blocking and floor D a ton, and that's something that we needed from last year for sure.
Now, by the way, you mentioned they're both, and that is correct, by the way, Kara being from Fort Wayne, and then Emma Halter from Roncalli right here in Indianapolis, your 2 newest teammates. Now, you're a native of Texas, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so does that mean that you grew up – I'm just assuming, and I'm going to go with the worst stereotype of all time here. I'm going to assume that means that you grew up around football constantly, and everybody had their favorite football team and Friday Night Lights and all that. Fact or fiction?
That's fact.
Okay, so who was your favorite team growing up?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I will tell you, I was a Texas fan through and through growing up, and not so much anymore, just from pure competitive standpoint. But I was a huge Texas volleyball fan growing up, and so to get Emma here is going to be really cool. I'm happy to have her.
Okay, and so now, of course, you came here after a 5-year career at the University of Kentucky, and you're here for your 2nd year. I'm curious of this, and I've asked a lot of players this. I asked your teammate Cameron Hanna about this earlier. When you were growing up in Texas and you were watching, obviously you mentioned Longhorns football and then volleyball as well, and then you end up at Kentucky. But do you feel a sense of, I'll use the term responsibility for lack of a better term, but is there in fact a feeling of responsibility of knowing what this means for young girls that are playing volleyball to now see it played at the professional level and have a team right here that girls can go out and watch play?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And up until 2 years ago, this was not a possibility for anyone. Any of my teammates, my former teammates, I have so many people that were playing in Germany and France and all these places, and for me to get to be here and play at home, I take it very seriously to come in here and work really hard, knowing that this is an opportunity that a lot of people didn't get, and that they deserved as well. And so it's really huge for not only the people that came before me, but for the little girls that are coming to our games. I know they're looking at us and thinking that can be me, and so we would take a lot of responsibility in that.
Ajani Teeler is my guest. She is with the Indy Ignite, an opposite hitter, as a matter of fact. You were part of the All-Star Weekend a year ago that took place here at the Fishers Event Center, and I went to that. It was super cool, and it was fun to watch. And one of the things that was fun to watch was to see the different coaches. If I'm not mistaken, you were playing underneath one of the legendary coaches in Indiana that came to help out with the All-Star Weekend, correct?
Correct. Dave Shondell, the legend himself.
He is a legend, I'll tell you what. But the watching him, and we had him on the program just before that weekend, the All-Star Weekend, when I went to it and was able to watch and just see all the different women coming together from the different franchises and put on that show. Crowd loved it. It was a huge crowd that was there. What did it mean for you to be able to, in your first year in Indy, be able to kind of put forth that hospitality for everybody and have the All-Star Weekend here?
Yeah, I've told everyone that'll listen to me that this is the best franchise in the league, like from organization point and front office space and all the things. Like, they do it so well here, and that's why I'm so glad to be a part of it. And so to bring people here and to watch us host the biggest event of the year beyond the championship, like, I was like, this is awesome. I get to be a part of this. This is home, and to show everyone how cool it is and what we built, it was very special.
I think so many players now, Johnny, like young players in any sport, right? We live in the world of year-round travel, sports, and everything else. And I think we live in a world where young athletes, and I want to speak real quick, if you could, especially to young girls that may be hearing this, or those young people that have aspirations of taking their game to the next level. And yet there is such an individualized thing that comes with that, an individualized drive. But understanding what's best in terms of a team concept is so important. At what point did you and how did you kind of find the balance between the individual drive, but also understanding that being able to buy into the team concept and what a team needs was what would be able to carry you and continue your career? Was that a difficult thing to learn throughout your journey?
I would say, yeah, it's a hard thing to learn, especially like you said, we grew up in this space where it's like it's all about you and what can you do better and all this stuff. But I would say my sophomore year of college, we won the national championship, and that team had 6 All-Americans on it, and so like you weren't the girl. Like, there was 10 girls. Everyone was the best player, and so having to buy into your role on that team was huge for me. And watching everyone pull on the same rope to win a national championship, that's when I learned, like, it's never about you. It's about how can we all pull on the same rope after the same goal, and you'll go further together than you ever will alone. And so it was a very cool message.
What's the best thing about playing in and listen, we've gone this far, and I'm very proud of myself here, okay? As somebody who went to Indiana University, I've gone this far without pointing out that you were a Kentucky Wildcat, and so therefore you had, there's a little bit to overcome here in Indiana, right? I mean, we know this, but having said that, what's the best thing about playing in Indy?
The fans, for sure, and I think just the culture of this city being, you can feel that this city really cares about sports at all levels. I mean, we went to hockey games and basketball games and fever games and all this stuff, and people truly, truly, truly care about their sports teams here, and they show out and they show up, and so it's been very cool to be a part of that and see consistent fans in the stands every single day. And,
with that, so, there seems to be a reciprocity that takes place of respect within the professional sports leagues. For example, some of the Colts have come out and watched you guys. I know yesterday we've been talking a lot about the Colts and the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday. But just how important is that and how much fun is that to kind of see the crossover, if you will, amongst the different athletes in Indianapolis and the support for it all?
Oh, my gosh, it's so fun. And like I said, I don't know how many other places that happens. I've played in other cities, and that definitely is not the case. And so it's definitely a mutual respect for each team and players, and there's a lot of high-level players in this city right now. And so it's very cool to be a part of, and, yeah, hopefully it keeps going.
And half of those players, by the way, in terms of who are going to be joining you, there were 4 of them that we knew from the draft will be joining the team today. 2 of them already have been named. Again, Kara Cressy and as well Emma Halter, who will be joining Ajanti Teeler and the rest of the Indy Ignite for the upcoming season. Your chance to meet them December 12th for Pepper's birthday from 5 until 7. That information available on the website for the Indy Ignite. Z, we appreciate the time, and certainly go Ignite, and best of luck in infiltrating your new teammates, everybody coming together, and then getting set here for another year in Indianapolis.
Thank you, Q. I appreciate it.
Hey, I love that. Z and Q right there. That should be, Eddie, there you go. That's the new show. The Z and Q show, right? Love it.
That was well played. Well played.
That's a veteran right there is what that is. That is absolutely a veteran. All right, we will take a quick recess. We will come back. Yesterday, Colts and Chiefs, a look back at it, what went right, what went wrong. Not a whole lot went right, but maybe it did. We'll explain next. Indy Ignite with the Major League Volleyball draft party taking place. They have made 2 selections so far. They have 4 all told on the day, and things get underway for them January 24th for their home opener. And, gosh, then I get self-conscious because everybody's been raucous in here. It's been a ton of fun. If you've never been to Parks Place Pub up here in Fishers, 116th Street, it's on the north side of the street, literally just to the west of I-69. It's an awesome place. And, I know J&B's done plenty of shows up here, but it is a fabulous place. And then you get the Fishers Event Center just across 69, which is where the Indy Ignite play their games. Obviously, the Fishers Freight play there. The Fuel now playing there. So great venue and a great place to pregame, if you will, and postgame, for that matter, if you are up in the area. Yesterday, the Colts dropping one in Arrowhead against the Chiefs. I don't know if you knew this or not, Eddie. Maybe I should have mentioned it earlier or 150 times, and I don't know if they said this on the broadcast yesterday.
Do I need to hit the breaking news sounder for this, Jake?
You know what? You might as well do it because we got all kinds of breaking news to get to. Go ahead and hit the breaking news sounder if you could. Thank you. The first is the fact that Patrick Mahomes has now beaten every team in the NFL in the regular season, right? How many times did they mention that yesterday that the Colts, and I only mentioned it 100 times last week during the week, but that obviously has come to an end in terms of his drought in the regular season against the Colts. The other breaking news, by the way, Eddie, you mentioned it to me earlier, but I will let you share it and pass it along. Not 1, but 2 bits of quarterbacking news in the AFC North, correct?
Yes, so on Thursday night, I think it's Thursday night, but on Thursday, regardless, on Thanksgiving, the Cincinnati Bengals will be taking on the Baltimore Ravens. They will be doing so with their franchise quarterback, Joe Burrow, back. That is good news for the Cincinnati Bengals, who have lost 5 or 6 in a row in their last 6 games or whatever the stretch is. It's a very important time for the Bengals as their season is pretty much over. They have to win out in order to make the playoffs at this juncture, but they get Burrow back. T. Higgins will be out. He was concussed in their loss yesterday to New England. Trey Hendrickson also remains out for Cincinnati. And the other news is that the Cleveland Browns are going to be sticking with Shadur Sanders as the team's starting quarterback, even if Dylan Gabriel clears concussion protocol this week.
And the Browns got a big win yesterday, right?
They did. They defeated the Raiders.
He lifted them to victory. Yeah,
who fired the most expensive coordinator in the NFL.
And Chip Kelly, by the way, out in Vegas as the Raiders coordinator, offensive coordinator. Listen, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong about something, okay? Partially because it doesn't take a lot of time on the show because it doesn't happen very often. But I was totally wrong about this. At the beginning of the year when we each picked who we thought would be like the surprise team of the year. And, Eddie, you absolutely nailed this one because your team was?
I picked the New England Patriots.
And look at them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at them. Now, you said New England. I said the Raiders, and I could not have been more wrong in that area. Curious to know this in regards to the Patriots. And there's probably a little bit of truth on both sides of this. How much of this is that New England with, clearly getting very good quarterback play, clearly, I think, very good defensively. How much of it is New England and how much of it is the fact that they are in that division, which, Buffalo's there. I get that. But, you're playing Miami. Their schedule, and they also were playing the bad schedule from a year ago. So their schedule has been very favorable, right?
Yeah, it's been incredibly favorable just because they finished last year in their division. They suffered a big injury, though, yesterday. Will Campbell, their starting left tackle, who was a premier pick, top 5 pick last year in the draft for the Patriots, injured his knee. He had to exit on a cart, have not heard anything on his availability moving forward. I think the optimistic approach was the fact that it was just a knee sprain. So Mike Vrabel said they're doing some further testing, and they will determine whether or not he will be placed on injury reserve or just simply miss a week or two. But, yeah, New England has had a very, very soft schedule, but I felt like going into the year, based off the soft schedule, you're getting another year of Drake May, who started to look really good down the stretch of last season. You have a new offensive coordinator, a legit offensive coordinator, and Josh McDaniels. You bring in a head coach that, brings a lot of accountability to the team and is really, really focused on the details, and it is always a tough opponent to play when it's head coached by Mike Vrabel. So I felt like the Patriots were in a spot to, make the playoffs. I did not think they would, more than likely, based off the remaining schedule of opponents, that they'll be the first seed in the AFC. I did not see that as the expected outcome, though.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody saw that coming, right? But nonetheless, you got to give them credit. Now, when you talk about schedule and you talk about taking advantage of schedule, that becomes now a very curious area for Indianapolis, because the Colts, what happened yesterday? The Colts yesterday, as I mentioned, there's a difference between something being bad and being egregious. Egregious, by definition, means that it is something bad but to a completely shocking level. I don't – it's not egregious that the Colts went into Arrowhead to lose. That's a tough place to play. That's a franchise that has a winning pedigree and is used to winning. It's a quarterback that has 57 lives and a lot of calls that go his way. There are a lot of areas that you can break down with that. But to go into Arrowhead and lose a game isn't necessarily egregious. But it was a bad loss. It was a bad loss, and it was a bad look for the Indianapolis Colts because Shane Steichen outcoached himself. Shane Steichen, who, when you talk to him, he's all ball, right? Shane Steichen's dialed in. He's a football guy. You talk to him, and immediately it is like plug and play football jargon and phrases and lines and, all over the place where you're like, man, a mile a minute brain. And a good, clearly, football mind. And at times this year, a great coach, no question. But every once in a while, and I think we saw it yesterday, every once in a while, and I'm not saying this because it's the Chiefs, the phrase that I use, when the arrows start flying, when you're in there in the midst of the battle and the arrows are flying past you and you've got to just boom, 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 and just make quick decision after quick decision. At those times, sometimes, I think the game for Shane Steichen, as fast as he can talk football and as rapidly as he can sit there and break things down for you when you ask him about guys and about players and whatever else, I think there are times where in the game things move at a speed where he's trying to keep up with that, and then he doesn't stop to just take a deep breath and make the right call. And he gets caught up in the speed of what's happening around him. And I thought it happened yesterday. The reason that's a bad loss is not just because it's 2 of 3 for the Colts now. Not just because it all of a sudden makes the mat that they've been standing on a little more slippery. They still have firm ground in the AFC South, but they have to go now 4 games still against its top 2 competitors. Tennessee, whatever, right? But Jacksonville and Houston, 2 very good teams. Houston in particular now is defensively figuring some things out. And they're winning games based on their defense without C.J. Stroud. And they're coming in here, and if Houston wins that game, then things get real interesting. And it is very dangerous and probably irresponsible to sit here and say that just because the Colts went into Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh blitzed the heck out of them, and the Colts suddenly forgot how to take care of the football, and then they come back and they go to Germany and they beat Atlanta. But think about how close they are to losing that game, and now all of a sudden you're losers of 3 straight. They are backpedaling a bit. Not just because of the loss. They are playing a different level of confidence or lack thereof than we saw a month ago. And the reason that is peculiar and troubling is because of the fact that it gets real here in schedule, because not just the 4 I mentioned, but then you throw in also Seattle and San Francisco remaining, okay? And I thought yesterday a couple of things that make it a bad loss. First off, you had the win in your back pocket. They controlled the vast majority of that game. They controlled the vast majority of that game until the 4th quarter when they completely got away from what has worked for them. And what has worked for them has been Jonathan Taylor. Yes, they have a gifted receiving core. Ashton Doolin again yesterday makes a play. It's what he does every time his number's called, seemingly. But they got away from, say, Tyler Warren and Josh Downs and getting those guys involved. And Daniel Jones' safety nets all of a sudden weren't there. And it seemed to me that Shane Steichen, over the course of that game, that what Shane Steichen did was Shane Steichen basically looked at that game and knew that Daniel Jones was off. He knew that Daniel Jones was struggling. And he knew that Daniel Jones has found this rebirth because of the fact that Shane Steichen has been his lifeline. And the symbiotic relationship that those two have had in terms of Steichen always pressing the right button and Jones being able to answer to it. I thought yesterday what you saw was Shane Steichen, who is a guy that played quarterback. What position did he play in college? At UNLV, he was a quarterback, right? Shane Steichen, who has awakened and found greatness in quarterbacks like a Jalen Hurts, for example. Okay? And yesterday, it seemed to me that what Shane Steichen saw was a quarterback that was losing his grasp on his confidence of this year and starting to slide backwards into the areas that caused him to be expendable with the New York Football Giants. And Steichen was trying to push every button to continue to awaken Daniel Jones. And Steichen was trying to continue to call the game for Daniel Jones as if to say, we believe in you. You're our guy. And it's too early for that. We're not at DEFCON 4 yet, or whichever one Chap said is the number that's the bad one, DEFCON 1.
The lower the number, the higher the importance.
Okay, so the lower the number, the more the kiss it goodbye, right?
Yeah.
So we're not there yet. But Steichen yesterday worked too quickly in taking it through DEFCON, and I think was trying too hard to give Jones that level that my guy trusts me. My guy believes in me. I'm going to get in rhythm here. I'm going to get this on the tracks. And he avoided doing what they should have done, which is to give it to Jonathan Taylor, to not just – Jonathan Taylor is the best running back in the league at salting games away. Not only keeping the ball out of the other team's Patrick Mahomes' hands, but also then breaking up a big play. And it never really got going yesterday because they didn't – in that fourth quarter and overtime, the Colts, 12 plays, 13 yards, no first downs? No bueno. No bueno. And they got away from what it is that they do in those situations to win games for themselves. And it cost them the game yesterday. They were outcoached late in that game because Andy Reid maintained by sticking what it is that Kansas City does. And yes, you can sit there and say that Patrick Mahomes was able to get uncorked in that fourth quarter and then overtime, but I think a big part of that was because that defense was completely gassed because that Colts offense did not get them any chance to catch their wind. And the way that you let a defense catch their wind is by controlling the clock, and you control the clock on the ground, not through the air, and they got away from all of it. Bad loss. It was a bad loss yesterday, without question. Joining me now, by the way, Parks Place Pub. Every time you come up here, anytime you come up to Parks Place, or if you're going to the Indy Ignite, I told you, Indy Ignite, Fuel, Fisher's Freight, whatever it might be. If you're going to the Fisher's Event Center, your place to pregame and postgame, or if you're just up in Fisher's in general, is Parks Place Pub. Indy Ignite draft party today. Matt Schleter here joining us from the Parks Place Pub. And Matt, it's been kind of an electric day here today, right? Which is what we always expect anytime that people are coming up here, right?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I didn't know really what to expect today, noon on a Monday for a Major League Volleyball draft. Like, what are you going to get? 20 people, 25 people? I counted 86.
Yeah, I was going to say, right? Now, in the restaurant business, you don't want to say 86, right?
That's right.
87,
yeah.
right?
That's right.
I know that much about restauranting. Let's get to this first off. And you and I have never really had a chance to talk about this in the fact that the Fisher's Event Center and what it's done for this place. I mean, this area, every time I come up here, it's more vibrant and more vibrant, right? Yeah. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's great, and I've said, when we opened 4.5 years ago, it was the middle of COVID, you had to hope that people were willing to get in their car and drive here for the most part and come see us and go to Parks Place Pub. Now you're getting to a point where people are like, let's just go to downtown Fishers.
Totally.
And we'll figure it out when we get there. And they might go to Tiburon and have, seafood and drinks and appetizers and then come over here. They might go to Cooper and Cal and have a steak. But ending up at Parks Place for a band or for a Pacers game or a Colts game, sitting in here yesterday, Colts, Kansas City, huge game. We didn't have enough room in Parks Place, so the new lounge that we just opened this weekend was great for overflow. We had another 60, 70 people in here watching the game, and it was electric.
Yeah, it's awesome. And there are all of the different games you guys have on. I mean, we're sitting in here right now, and you got the draft on, and you got the NFL Networks on, and Big Ten Network. So you got everything going on here. No question about that. We'll continue the conversation about Parks Place Pub and everything that's going on with the Indy Ignite draft as well. Matt's been running around. You're the official host of the whole thing here, right?
Yeah, so a partner in this bar and stakeholder in the Indy Ignite as well. So it's best of both worlds for me, bringing them both together.
I love it. All right, well, let's also join here on the Java House Peel and Port guest line talking about Butler basketball, one of the teams that you can watch when they're playing in action at Parks Place Pub. Joining me now from the Indianapolis Star, and I wanted to have him on just because, I'll be honest, Akeem Glaspie, when I know that obviously this is your first year on the beat and covering Butler basketball. I love reading it because you will break down after games like, here's what I liked, here's what I didn't like. And then I thought to myself, this is the one guy in Indy media I don't know. So we got to have him on the show just to get to know him. So I appreciate you coming on, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Let's begin with this before we get into, because I want to know about you as well. But this Butler team, Thad Matta, to me, has done a really good job so far this year because they had to basically reinvent not who they are, but their roster as well and just their style of play. And so far, the returns have been good because from what I can tell, they can score and they can play in various ways, whether it be inside or out. What has jumped out at you so far about this group that Thad Matta has?
Yeah, I just think he did a great job overhauling the roster. They have 11 new players, and just the talent level has improved. And Coach Matta, he said he wanted to bring in more athleticism and just kind of physicality, and they've definitely done that with someone like Gonzaga transfer Michael Ajayi. And he has 6 straight double-doubles. He's honestly kind of just emerging as one of the best defenders in the entire NCAA, and he kind of sets the tone with his tenacity and energy. And then someone like Finley Bizjack, who was averaging 17 points a game, they're just a more talented team and a more complete team that's really fun to watch right now.
Akeem, this particular, Butler basketball, Thad Matta grouping, let me tell you what has been my concern, and then I want you to tell me where I'm completely incorrect and off base here, okay? In the Big East, to me, when the times that I've watched Butler since they've come over to the Big East, the one thing that was always of concern to me was that they didn't seem to have the bigs or the athleticism to go up against what's in the Big East. Then I looked at the Big East and I thought, okay, so are you going to get Midwestern kids that want to play in that league? And then are you going to be able to get players from the East or from the areas that have been recruiting fertile ground for the Big East that you're going up against your competitors with in terms of style to then come and play in the Midwest? It seemed like there was this imbalance of fit for Butler in that league. Now, I want you to tell me why I'm totally off base and I'm totally living in the past.
Yeah, I'd say you're a little off base just because, to Butler's credit, they've done a great job recruiting nationally. Like I said, Finley Bizjack is from Texas. Michael Ajayi is from Washington. Jamie Kaiser is from Virginia. So they're not really beholden to recruiting Indianapolis, Indiana, or the Midwest in general. I mean, they have one local player in Stink Robinson, point guard. Evan Haywood is from Carmel, but pretty much everyone else is from outside of Indianapolis and the Midwest. So when Butler can recruit kind of nationally, I don't think they need to necessarily worry about, recruiting in the Midwest. And they can get bodies from all over. Like Johan Traore is the backup center. He's from France. And the starting center, Drayton Jones, he's from South Carolina State by way of Houston, Texas. So just I think the recruiting that Coach Matta has done has kind of negated the fact of that they need to kind of focus on the Midwest in any way.
Yeah, it seemed like this year was where they really turned that around, right? Maybe I'm off there, but where do they stand NIL-wise versus the rest of the league?
I can't speak specific dollar amounts, but I do know that new athletic director Grant Linedecker, he's committed to, or he's made it his kind of a mission to get Butler to a place where they can recruit nationally. I mean, the recruiting class that they brought in, they had 5 freshmen, and it was a top 25 recruiting class nationally. So, I mean, that obviously that takes money to do, and they've been able to kind of hang with a lot of the Big East and other schools. So I think they're making inroads in the NIL space, and they're able to keep players like Finley Bizjack. I mean, he entered the recruiting portal at the end of last season, and he returned. So I'd imagine they met the figure that he was asking for. And again, a player like Michael Ajayi is coming from Gonzaga, and Jamie Kaiser is coming from Maryland. So these are big programs that they're getting players to transfer, from Butler. So I just think they've made improvements in the NIL space, definitely.
Stylistically, what about them do you like? What area do we look at this year for Butler and you say, okay, this is what's going to be their calling card, and what area is their vulnerability?
Yeah, so right now they're just kind of a rugged team, and their offense is going to be their calling card. They can score with anybody, like I said, between Finley Bizjack and Michael Ajayi and Jalen Jackson. They have scorers and they have talented two-way players, and that's something that they didn't always have. They always had talented scorers, but they have scorers that can play defense and scorers that want to play defense, and they're also rebounding very well too. And right now, the Achilles heel would be free throw shooting. They have a lot of players shooting around 60 to 70%, and in a close game, you're going to want players that can shoot free throws. So that's kind of their Achilles heel, and maybe depth. They have, again, a lot of freshmen coming off the bench, a lot of players that haven't played a lot of Big East minutes coming off the bench, so maybe free throw shooting and depth would be an area of concern.
Okay, lastly, journalistically, you're never supposed to make yourself part of the story. I get that, Akeem, right? Akeem Glaspie's my guest from the Indianapolis Star. But we've not gotten the chance to talk to you before, so I wanted to give you the opportunity. Tell me about Akeem. Tell me about Akeem and covering Butler now. I know you do some high school stuff as well, but tell me about Akeem Glaspie.
Oh, man. Akeem is a guy he's from the Midwest. He grew up in Elgin, Illinois. Always been a sports fan. I love football, basketball. I love telling stories. That's kind of why I got into journalism, right? Because I never want to be the story, but I love telling stories and I love getting to know these athletes and coaches. That's kind of what I do and what kind of gets me out of bed in the morning.
Okay, so grew up in Illinois. College where?
Southern Illinois University, Carbondale.
Look, Matt's loving that, man. Matt's in on the Salukis. All right, Akeem. Listen, I want to have you back on, man. I certainly appreciate the time on short notice. I know Bulldogs coming up on Friday. Up next for Wright State, coming off a win against Virginia and South Carolina. Back-to-back wins for Butler so far this year. Akeem, appreciate it, man. We'd love to have you back on the show. All right.
Yep, no problem. Anytime.
Is there an official Saluki salute that you can do? Because you got super excited there when you heard the Southern Illinois news.
If there was, I would know it because I was the mascot when I was there.
Love it.
Great dog.
Saluki mascot, huh?
I was, yeah.
All right, fair enough. You got time to stick around, Matt?
I do.
All right, we'll continue with the conversation here. Indy Ignite, the theme of it. We're at the draft party, and we are at Parks Place Pub up in Fishers. It's Query & Company here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Back at Parks Place Pub, it is the Indy Ignite draft party for Major League Volleyball. 2 players already have been selected. Kara Cressy was the 5th overall pick. She is a middle blocker out of Louisville. And then later in the draft, it is Emma Halter from Roncalli, as a matter of fact, in the University of Texas at Libero, that has joined the team. Joining us now on the Java House Peel and Port guest line, the Indy Ignite, a middle blocker from Purdue, Blake Moeller, joining us on the program. Blake, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
You know what? Listen, I'm good because, and this is exciting because there are, we're up here at Parks Place Pub and, the Fishers Event Center where you guys play just across the way here. And it's been an electric atmosphere here today of people getting excited. But I'm curious from your standpoint. You've been able to see the draft. You see the 2 of the 4 new teammates that you're going to acquire today that have been brought in. Your overall reaction to it?
I just think it's super exciting. The sport of volleyball is growing for women, and just these girls getting the opportunity to play in their home country coming out of college and continuing their careers is just, it's awesome, and it's something that people have dreamed of. And I'm just so happy that they get the experience and that we get to bring them into such an awesome organization.
Blake, I got to tell you, it's Matt Schlueter. We've got a great crowd up here rooting the team on in the draft and everything. Hey, but I've got 2 questions for you. One, how are things coming together, having a new coaching staff and getting the girls all on the same page? And 2, what's your favorite place to eat in downtown Fishers?
Trick question on the second, right?
Well, answer to number 1 would be it's been a very smooth transition. Our front office has done a great job welcoming in Lauren and the team, and I actually played against Lauren in Switzerland, so I'm very familiar with her and her coaching style. So just super excited to bring a different perspective of professional volleyball over into the United States with the experience that she's had all over the world. And I think all of the girls that we have on the team so far and that we're bringing in are going to be 1,000% bought in. And I think it's going to make for a really good year for Indy Ignite. And number 2, I'm like a big carnivore girl. I love, all I eat is protein. So going to Parks Place and getting my wings after the game is probably my favorite stop. Other than that, I'm
there you go. And I'm telling you that the service is efficient, right? Not unlike the Indy Ignite. Now, Blake, you are a native of Mississippi, but near New Orleans. Is that correct?
Yes, I am. I'm about an hour and 20 outside New Orleans.
Okay, I want to know how many Mardi Gras you've been to.
Growing up every year, my family is super involved. My grandfather was captain of Mardi Gras from, I was so tiny on the floats with him. And it's just kind of passed down through my family. My dad was captain. My uncles have been captain. My sister was a maid. Unfortunately, with volleyball, I never got to get fully involved with GCCA or any of those organizations. But hopefully, maybe in the next 10 years, once I retire, I'll be back in it.
Okay, so here's the thing. You grow up down there, you see Mardi Gras, then you go to Purdue. You're part of the inaugural Indy Ignite group, so you've been around Central Indiana. Fact or fiction, the Indy 500 is the Mardi Gras of the Midwest.
That's 1,000% a fact. I feel like that's Indy personality.
I love that. You're on it, man. Absolutely. So, but the reason I ask it, people in Indiana, we have a great passion for things that are part of our culture, and the Indy 500 is obviously one of them, right? One of the things that I was naive to, volleyball, there's a great volleyball culture in Central Indiana. I mean, going obviously up into Muncie and, and Dave Shondell and Purdue and everything else, to be a part of that growing culture, what does that mean for you and for your teammates?
Oh, it's so special. I mean, growing up in Mississippi, volleyball is, well, let's just say it was non-existent when I was come out of the state, and then coming to a state where volleyball was so important, and these girls were playing since they were 8 years old, and then coming to play for a family that had been coaching together for 17 years, I think, when I was there. I could see how special the sport was to the area. And if you go back to any of my interviews, I always thought that Indiana was a volleyball state, and everyone was like, oh, there's no way. I don't know if it's going to survive in this market. And I think Indy Ignite has done a pretty damn good job of showing in the last 2 years, Indiana's volleyball state. And now we're having these opportunities of showcasing what volleyball can do for these young girls, especially for states like mine where it wasn't big. So I think it's a really cool thing to see.
I love it. And again, December the 12th, your chance to meet Blake, the rest of the Indy Ignite from 5 until 7 in the afternoon. It is Pepper's birthday. Pepper's the mascot, by the way. Matt, you know about mascots, right?
I do know a little bit
Pepper's
about mascots.
the mascot.
Yeah.
Pepper's the star of the
show.
You're not wrong.
Pepper's the Mardi Gras mascot.
Yeah, she is.
Isn't that right?
It's kind of like Mardi Gras in here.
Hey, Blake, I know that you guys are going to be getting underway. Obviously, practice December 12th, like I said, from 5 till 7, your chance to go up and meet the rest of the team and Blake as well. And then everything getting underway January 24th, home opener for the Indy Ignite. We certainly wish you the best of luck. I appreciate the time today. And we'll go back to watching the draft as well to see who you guys, about 3:15, I think, is going to be the next pick for the Ignite. But, Blake, I appreciate the time today. Best of luck,
Thanks,
all right?
Blake.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, Blake Muller, middle blocker from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and Purdue University. And again, the next pick for the Ignite going to be coming up about 3:15, I think, is going to be when they make their next pick. All right, I always ask the question after a Colts game. Give me Eddie, I don't know if you've noticed this, but with each game that they played now, I'm allowing more words, right? So it was give me, now it's up to tell me in 11 words or fewer, your thoughts on the Colts at this point in the year. One guy used the opportunity to simply list 7 profane words to me. And I said, look, you got 4 more. You got 4 more, right? I mean, didn't even use them all. But I'll read off, not that one, but I will read off some of the better answers in terms of the Colts. And Eddie, do we still have tickets to give away for the Big Ten Fan Fest?
No, we have given away all of them for today.
Okay.
Yes.
Good deal. All right, so we gave them all away. So we come back. I will read for you some of those answers in terms of 11 words or fewer, your thoughts on the Colts, and we'll recap what happened yesterday on Arrowhead next. Parks Place Pub, the location, Indy Ignite Draft Party is here for the pro volleyball draft. They have already made 2 selections. They will have 2 more before it is all said and done. Jake Query here along with Eddie Garrison, who's back in studio. Cam is here as our on-site engineer, and Matt Schleter hanging out with me, from Parks Place Pub. Matt, you said that you were the mascot before I get to some of the tweets from yesterday, you were the Saluki at Southern Illinois. How many years were you doing that?
Well, just a year because they wouldn't ask me back after the first year.
Did you have some mascot shenanigans that got you in some trouble?
I'll tell you this. I was an engineering student, so when I found out that I could be the mascot and I would get a band credits, and it's just an automatic A, you assume, and then it helps out your GPA. As an engineering student, I could use all the help I could get. And I'll save you all the stories because they're not appropriate for on air, but let's just say I ended up with a C on my transcripts for band.
Really?
Being a mascot, yeah. I was good at it, in my opinion, but not the athletic director and they weren't big.
I have a weird mascot. Fetish is the wrong word because I realize on some HBO show that there are people that actually have that. But fascination with mascots is probably a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
Obsession. Thank you, Eddie. One of the things about being a mascot that I always thought was cool is like it's carte blanche to do whatever you want, right?
Yeah, you can get. Well, it's the weirdest thing. Yes, you're right, kind of. Until you're drinking beer in the parking lot with the alumni and you're supposed to be in the game cheering on the team, right? I've got that head.
When the Salukis drinking, do they put it in a little bowl for you? Is that what they do, right?
No, I just take the head off, and there's no
that's
kids
a problem.
around at that point. That is a problem.
That's a problem, right?
No, it was, totally a good time. But, yeah, it's the weirdest thing about being a mascot is you're walking around during the game, and you're getting – everybody wants their picture with you. You're the most popular person in the arena or in the football stadium. Everybody wants their picture taken, high-fiving you, everything. And once you change and you see the same people leaving the stadium, none of them acknowledge you. But you just got your picture taken with me.
Well, so let me ask you this. You said you were an engineering major?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I think engineering, I think guys building bridges and roads, and instead you're building an awesome restaurant.
Oh, yeah,
so how did that happen?
Well, at first, to throw you off course even more, I got into the mortgage business, and so that's actually what I do full-time.
Okay.
And then, when I saw this pizza place closed down across the street 5 years ago, I was like, well, I hope something cool goes in there. And nothing cool was going in. It sat vacant for a year. And I was like, well, we ought to do it. Live music, garage doors, patio, great food, cold beer. And if nobody else is going to do it, why don't we do it? So me and 2 buddies did it.
What's the origin of the name, Parks Place?
So the original bar in Fishers, Indiana in 1880, 150 years ago, was called Parks Place Saloon. And if you look,
very cool.
If you look up on our mural there on the far left, that with the canopy over it and the horse right outside, that's Parks Place Saloon from the 1880s.
That's very cool.
It actually says it on the front window. So where Patachu is now, that Nickel Plate Bar and Grill was there. That's what was there 150
And the Nickel Plate line goes right through here,
right.
obviously, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yesterday I asked a question. You watched the Colts game, I assume?
I did.
Colts and Chiefs?
Yeah.
Asked a question yesterday. Tell me in 11 words or fewer your thoughts on the Colts' 2025 season through 11 games. Several people, okay, Daniel Jones is money from under 20 or over 50 yards. That's probably some accuracy in that, right? Like you get in beyond that. I think the inconsistency of Daniel Jones is one of the things that started to jump out to people. Funny how all Colts problems this year run through the offense. That from Mo. Andrew, Shane Steichen outcoached in second half by Andy Reid. I think a lot of people felt that way as well. Nick Yeoman had a good one. That's simply too many words for me to try and count in a tweet. Okay, that's fair. This from Adam. Stupid. Now, I think Adam went with 12 there, actually, unfortunately. The overwhelming theme from people. Now, one guy did, and I'll give him credit. Like I said, he sent me 7 profane words. And I didn't know that there were actually 7 you could put in one, but he did. And I said, you still got 4 more. And he didn't offer 4 more profane words. So maybe that was the peak of it. I like this one here. Stop the fair weather fan stuff. Still running the division. Chill. Now, Eddie, I'm going to ask you, do you agree with that the Colts still have the stranglehold on the division, or is there now area of concern?
I still think there's area of concern because if you just look at this week and how important this game is against the Houston Texans, who are, by the way, 6-2 in their last 8 games, if you fall tomorrow or on Sunday against Houston, then Jacksonville is only a game behind you because the Jaguars, they would be tied because you would be 8-4. Jacksonville most likely would be 8-4 because they face Tennessee this weekend, who is 1-10 and doesn't look like they're in any win now mode the rest of this season, at least as it appears in the near future. So you're going to go into Jacksonville potentially after, if you lose to Houston on Sunday, 8-4, and that could decide the division just based off where things are at record-wise and the remainder of the schedule, because the Colts still have the Seattle Seahawks. That's a road game in Seattle, and a tough San Francisco 49ers team that's starting to get healthy.
This from Greg. Colts start the tailspin, lose AFC South, finish 10-7. Now, Matt, that seems pessimistic, does it not?
That does seem pessimistic. I was also just looking at the total of that Texans-Colts game, 44.5. I mean, is either team going to score 14 points in that game?
Boy.
Texas, that defense the Texans have is elite.
And that defense has, if you look at Houston right now, and I think this is the one thing that, again, you have to be concerned about if you're the Colts. Kansas City yesterday in the first half of that game was not defensively overly aggressive. But again, in the second half is when they really started to pressure Daniel Jones, and they started bringing that blitz. And you saw Pittsburgh kind of opened the blueprint there, right? If you can start blitzing and you can get attention to Daniel Jones, you can get him uncomfortable and he can get out of rhythm. And I think that's the thing that is of concern to an extent, is the fact that when he's out of rhythm, then the ball security. Now, we didn't see that as much yesterday, but the fourth quarter and the overtime of that game, 12 plays, 13 yards, no first downs, and you're abandoning Jonathan Taylor. That's the thing that I think is of concern. For example, Kyle, we have to control our winning opportunities better. That's a perfect way of saying it. I said it earlier. It's not necessarily an egregious loss because you're going into Arrowhead, which is a tough place to play. And you knew at the beginning of the year that was going to be a tough place to play. But it was a bad loss because it should have been a win. It should have been a win, and you had the opportunity right there in front of them. From Timothy, don't know how to close out games against good opponents. Several people have also pointed out that the schedule is such that, now people are saying like, hey, they got fat off of a schedule that now all of a sudden gets real, and that's where the choke begins. We'll see. Again, I know fans are going to be in an extreme the day after a disappointment like yesterday, but we'll find out what John thought about it. J&B joins us now as part of the crossover, brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air. Love-HVAC.com is the website. 317-353-2141, the telephone number. J&B, I assume you will be talking plenty about what happened yesterday at Arrowhead.
No, I'm going to talk about the profile of Matt Schleter for 2.5 hours. This is what I'm going to do.
That's right.
Does he realize how glorious the profile of Schleter is that we see right now?
You know what? Here we go. There we go. Now we got a moron.
See, now all we need to do is let him admire himself even more right here. That's beautiful. What's up,
That's
Schleter?
exactly right.
That's my boy right
my
there.
brother?
He's a great dude, man. Jake, I'm glad you're having a great time up there. It sounds fun as hell. Really
Great
does.
time.
Yeah.
Definitely. This is an awesome place, too, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it goes without saying because you've been up here plenty. Awesome place.
Yeah, I love it. Everybody up there is great. Matt and Matt are fantastic. I mean, it's like friends and family, and it is a great meeting place. And I heard you talk about Fishers and the growth. That's what is incredible. What a place to be up there right now.
It is.
Well done, Matty. Well done on the radio, too. He's a vet of the radio, so we sounded great.
Well, you're the one. You're my mentor, I guess, right?
Oh, God.
That's right.
Don't put all that pressure on me.
Not only is he a radio mentor, but probably back in the day could have taught you ways to drop your grade to a C as the mascot by acting up, right?
Hey, Jake, you did ask me the question regarding the Colts yesterday, and to me, what it did, it reinforced not just nationally but locally here a lot of the doubts that linger. I think came to light in the fourth quarter. You're talking about Shane Steichen and not utilizing, being out-coached in this case. You talk about Daniel Jones maybe going back to more of what Daniel Jones has been. An offense doing some backpedaling too, and a team that despite going out prior to the trade deadline and making that massive deal for Sauce Gardner is not nearly ready for that level of winning.
Totally.
And a lot of those questions have been asked, and I thought the Colts did one hell of a job in the fourth and in overtime of unfortunately reinforcing those notions.
Yeah, they listen, and I thought Sauce Gardner yesterday, Shavarius Ward, I talked about it earlier. I mean, I know that there are people that said, hey, they were supposed to have this great secondary. Look, in the second half, that you can't put that on the defense because they just never got a chance to get any sort of a breath because the Colts offensively did not have the ball control by abandoning Jonathan Taylor. And every time the defense would come off the sidelines, they're right back in the game, right? So there was a lot to break down from that. John, I know you'll be doing that coming up here in just a couple minutes. We'll throw it out to you, all right?
You got it, guys. See you, man.
That is JMV joining us as part of the crossover brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air. All right, we will recap for you tomorrow exactly who the Ignite get with their last 2 picks of this draft. We will get back into, of course, talking about not only the Colts and the Chiefs and continuing that conversation, but also recapping Pacers and Pistons tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Eddie Garrison will be working that game. We will get into that tomorrow as well. I want to thank Matt. Matt, thanks for having us out. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys.
And the Indy Ignite as well. A lot of fun today, and we will be back with you tomorrow at noon. And I thank you for listening to Query & Company.